Friends, what's up? Today we are testing the new Harman Phoenix 200 color film stock in 35mm. I'm very curious, I've never photographed with it personally. I've only seen a few shots on Insta that show a bit of a reddish-orangish color tint. Unfortunately, we won't manage to take portraits today. Instead, we're roaming the city a bit more. That's why we're about to meet the Spanish photographer Jose Carvajal. He will give a few insights. He's a portrait and beauty photographer here in Barcelona. He has already tested the film, mainly in the studio and with portraits, and has a few tips and tricks for us. So I would say let's not talk long and meet with the dear pros. So friends, we've now settled comfortably in a cafe. The good host will now tell us something about the film stock, but first a bit about him and what he actually does. Hi Jose, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man.
So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, so I'm a beauty and fashion photographer. I'm here based in Barcelona, and I basically shoot a lot of film, and that's the reason why you contacted me. And yeah, I've been working for a few brands and magazines in general, doing a lot of editorials and stuff like that. Yeah.
So on your Instagram, I seen you also shot with the Harman Phoenix already, and also seen you got some tips and tricks how to use it and how to expose it. So what are your go-tos and how was your experience using it?
Yeah, so when I started using it, it was a little bit going for an experimental mode when the 35mm got released. And yeah, I didn't really know it was going to come out very differently in terms of scanning, depending on what scanner you're using. So yeah, we saw the result with the 35mm, and then I wanted to, when the 120 got released, Harman contacted me and we wanted to see in a little bit more controlled environment how it looked. And yeah, so the tips and tricks, basically the things that I applied that second time with the medium format film, was basically overexposing a fucking lot, like 3 entire stops. And yeah, trying to use a lot of very soft light, but also playing with the hard light was quite fun. The main tip, I would say, it would be also asking to your local lab what kind of scanners are they using in order for you to know how they look in general, how they are going to make the film look.
Did you do anything in like post-production, correcting the colors, or are they flying out of camera and scanner?
No, actually I didn't. Depending on the way I process the film, it was basically having some shots scanned with the Frontier scanner, the Fujifilm Frontier, some others with the Noritsu, and those are not processed much more apart from the scanners themselves. And then I digitized some of them at home with my reflex and the macro lens and all of that. And those are processed in Capture One, and that's it. But far more than that, maybe retouching tiny spots in the faces and things like that.
Okay.
Not too much, to be honest.
Have you shot the 35mm version of it?
Yeah, as I told you, it was the first one. And I used it for a beauty editorial that I shot like last year, I think it was, when it got released, like a couple of months after. And yeah, we were I was near the lab at that time, and so the lab owner told me, hey man, when you shoot this, just let me know and come here, we will see the results, because the scans from the rest of the people are looking kind of weird because they were still testing how it worked. And yeah, and when we ran the film through the Noritsu and the Frontier at the same time, it was like super contrasting, the Frontier, like blue and greenish shadows, blown out highlights and things like that. And the Noritsu signal was a little bit more correct, would I say, maybe correct. But yeah. And it was super fun, to be honest. It's a very fun experimental film to shoot.
All right. That's a good call, because maybe we can ask Double Lab to also scan it in both scanners to have a direct comparison.
Absolutely, I would do that. I would do that if I would be you.
Yeah, because then like we have everything in the video.
Yeah.
But that's also.
And also, if you have the chance to scan it at home, just try it, because it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Not just with this film, but in general.
Yeah. Okay.
It's fun.
All right. Thank you so much. And now we're gonna have to find out for ourselves. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, man. Nice to see you.
So now we have already received quite a bit of input. We will definitely try to get the comparison of the two scanners, as Jose already mentioned, and of course we will show that to you as well. Now we're heading out, or rather first we'll load the film into the camera and then take some cool shots. We have definitely loaded the film into the camera now, and as Jose recommended, we set it 2 stops higher for the film. That means they are overexposed, and I'm curious to see what shots will come out. Okay, now we have a problem, Doom. By overexposing the film now, we're metering it at 50 ISO, and now that there is no direct sunlight here, it's already quite dark. That means we have to try to open the aperture as wide as possible. It's not possible to open it very wide with the lens because it's a zoom lens, but I think if we find some spots with more sun, it shouldn't be a problem at all. It's a really beautiful. Oh, that was a very long shutter, but yeah, like I said, no light here, but it looks cool. I'm curious. Alright, let's continue. We can display the counter showing how many street photography style pictures we take and how many regular ones. Simply the sun directly behind the palm tree.
Jetzt ein Döner. Junge, ist das schön. Ich brauche mir meine eigene Gegenlichtblende.
At the moment we turned around when we took the picture, he also looked thoughtfully into the camera. Today, it won't be a problem again to complete the 10,000 steps. Should I pretend to take a shot in your direction?
Oh.
Schön. So, friends, the good Jose recommended that we overexpose the film by 2 stops. Now we want to see how the film looks when it's exposed normally, that is at 200 ISO, then once overexposed by 1 stop at 100 ISO, and then overexposed twice or plus 2 stops at 50 ISO. And now we'll do all of this with this beautiful subject of this lifeguard hut on the beach, and let's see how the shots turn out. All the shots up to now have been overexposed by 2 stops. Now I'll go back to 0, which means to 200 ISO, and then I'll take the first shot here. Boom, next, boom. And now Jonas will show you the overview, and then you will see how the different stops affect the image. Friends, The roll is almost full. We will now head to the double lab and drop it off there. On the way, we'll finish the last 6 frames. Man, these are totally basic shots. It's your turn. But make it vertical. Now you have to direct and make it high. Yes. Strong. I am curious to see what you have created. As already announced, today we found absolutely no one who felt like doing a portrait. That's why we will now end with a cool selfie together, the good Jonas and I. We experienced a lot in Barcelona and this will be our final picture. We're back in Germany. Unfortunately, it's still cold here and not as nice as in Barcelona. I got the scans back. Let's take a look. You've already seen a bit. Personally, I have to say that the Harman Phoenix surprised me both positively and negatively. Well, I already knew that I couldn't expect much from portraits or such, especially since I had already looked at it on Instagram before. Good old Jose already sent us a few examples, which you've already seen. We'll display them here again. In the studio, the whole thing looks pretty usable for sure. It's definitely a bit unfamiliar, but you can definitely do something with it. What I have here in front of me is the final picture of Jonas and me. And you can already see pretty well that the colors work.
Really have such an intense orange and red tint, no matter on which scanner it was scanned. And personally, I don't enjoy that look at all. That's not it.
Otherwise, you can say that especially during the golden hour, in the evening when the sun has set, these red and orange tones look really awesome. So if you look here, for example, at the beach photos, I will always put the ones from the Frontier and Noritsu scanners next to each other. The Frontier is on the right, the Noritsu on the left, if you take a look at it. Here, the sunset. That's where the colors really look awesome. So you really have a nice contrast, and the golden hour effect is somehow even more pronounced here. And I personally like that a lot. Especially with the other street style shots, like here for example. The bride and groom that we picked up along the way can be seen quite well here, also in comparison. I really like the colors here, and also this red-orange is not so distracting in the foreground, but rather gives a slight vibe to the situation itself. Here, for example, the hotel again. You can clearly see the difference between the Frontier and the Noritsu, where the colors in one are just a bit more subdued, a bit more orange, and with the Frontier scanner you still get a bit more contrast. You can see it really well in the sky. Here the blue comes through nicely. Here it's more of a turquoise. And personally, I like the scans from the Frontier much better, except for some pictures. There, however, the Noritsu impresses. Here we have, I believe, one of my favorite images from the Harman Phoenix film stock test, and that's the Estrella bear. We were relaxing on the beach in Barcelona, taking a little break, and the shot actually came about spontaneously. And here you can see nicely, with both scanners, that this orange-red really comes out well, and somehow I can't really decide on either of the two images. In the left one, I like this orange, is just very soft and subtle, and in the right one, the contrast is really sharp, yet there's this golden shimmer, and that's really appealing. Well, there you could say, or for example, I really can't decide whether I want the left or the right scan. And lastly, I have here again a comparison of the golden hour. As I said earlier, the film can really deliver, especially this beautiful contrast, this red-orange that really stands out and comes to the forefront. It really brings back the entire vibe, this summery, fresh feeling, just like what Barcelona has with the beach. And I think these colors convey that really well. Overall, I can say that personally, when it comes to portraits and people, the film is definitely not for me, but outside, especially during the golden hour, I would definitely shoot with it again. I definitely want to try it out in the studio as well. Good Jose really inspired me with his pictures. Therefore, it is not out of the question that I will use the film again in the future. However, for me, it falls more under the category of experimental film. And now I would say, I hand it back to Tim in Barcelona, and we will see each other again in the next video. If you don't want to miss anything in this direction, it is definitely worth subscribing to the channel and feel free to leave a comment. I would definitely be interested in how you find the film and what you think of it. And otherwise, there's nothing left for me to say except grab a film and make some nice pictures.
Kamera geht raus und macht ein paar geile Shots.